Hello and welcome back to the Dueling Grounds podcast. Feels like literally just the other day we're doing a set review and suddenly we're doing a set review again. Mystery Booster Commander Edition. You quite enjoyed the last two Mystery Booster sets, but this is quite unique in that the last two didn't actually have mechanically unique cards in them. What are your thoughts on the set?
I didn't get to enjoy the Mystery Booster sets before, so I guess I have less thoughts going in. Mechanically unique boosters, mechanically unique cards in what could be difficult to get hold of boosters is an interesting choice, but we'll see how powerful the cards are and how much difference that makes to our format.
I think overall, we both have the same opinion, which is that there isn't really that much for Duel Commander. We briefly considered not even doing a set review, but people in the comments of the Hobbit set review asked us to do so we thought we'd talk about some of the more interesting ones. Some of the cards we're talking about today aren't necessarily the most powerful cards, but more just interesting to talk about design-wise. And if they do have a home in the format, they're probably not going to be top of the meta, but maybe just more like fun build-around decks, which is completely fine as well. This format doesn't have to be top tier all the time.
Absolutely. And it makes for a good clip when one of them ends up being broken.
100%. I can't wait to underestimate them. the next fantastic card. So the first card we're talking about is Ekthi, Contaminator Priest, which is 3 and a white for a 3/3 legendary creature Phyrexian Cleric with other Phyrexians you control get +1/+1, and each equipment you control has a living weapon. So 4 mana is quite a lot for this effect. But the main kind of thing I'm thinking about is that it works quite well with Skullclamp.
Yeah.
Because all your equipment will come into play. They'll make a 0/0 that you can then Skullclamp onto. Then when you move the equipment onto something else, the germ will die.
I guess even Skullclamp itself will just draw you 2 cards as soon as it comes into play as well, which is quite cool.
100%. This definitely isn't a card I'm saying is going to be a commander. I said the same thing about Cloud though. But maybe this could have a home in Cloud. I think 4 mana might be a bit of a stretch. 4 mana has to do quite a lot in this format to be worth it.
I think so, yeah.
Adam, what are your thoughts?
So I'm probably going to be saying this a lot, but I think a lot of these cards are kind of memey, and we'll see how good they are. I mean, this card just highlights how good Skullclamp is, and Skullclamp probably doesn't need a lot of work to make it better. It's interesting card. The effect is very interesting. It's the fact that all your equipment comes in pre-equipped on a creature. There's things that you can do. The other one, the hammer, that's kind of interesting as well, right? Because it's 1 mana to make a, what is it, 8, 10, 10, can't remember.
A 10/10 that loses flying.
Yeah, but that's pretty good for 1 mana. So there's something there. I just think it's the 4 mana that looks a bit rough, but then, yeah. Nivea, Beloved Battlemage. It's 2 and a white for a 3/1. Legendary creature, human wizard warrior. Whenever a creature you control becomes blocked, you may untap it and remove it from combat. So a kind of Maze of Ith type effect there. And then you can pay 5 white to sacrifice this creature and create a Chroma Angel of Rath token, which they remind you is a 5 white because tokens that are copies of cards actually have a mana value. Legendary 6/6 Angel with flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, haste, protection from black and from red. So one of a cycle of cards of this that have callbacks to iconic cards from Magic's history. So yeah, this seems cool. You were thinking of Yoshi, and I don't know, I just don't see sacking this for 8 mana. But where are you seeing this home?
Adam, it's like one of our favourite phrases is it doesn't make it worse.
It doesn't make it worse. You're right that these kind of abilities don't make the card worse, but the card needs to be good in the first place for it to be justifying saying that about it.
I think
you think the ability here, this sort of triggered ability, is worth it?
I think it's interesting. I think it's whenever a creature control becomes blocked, you may untap it and remove from combat. This does a couple of things. It means that you can full swing without having to, because sometimes combat can be a difficult beast to battle with. When your opponent has like a couple good blockers, you've got more creatures, but if you attack with everything, you're going to lose your best creatures. Well, this is a case where you can just full swing happily, and whatever creatures do get blocked, you can just untap them. It also means you can trigger your attack abilities. So this card has a couple keywords, Wizard and Warrior and Human. 3 of the more relevant keywords to have, in particular Warrior, when you have Najeela, who's been unbanned recently. Najeela has an attack trigger whenever a warrior attacks. So this means that you can swing with all of your warriors. Any that get blocked that might die can then be untapped.
Get to keep
so
them.
You can guarantee your attack triggers. The problem, I guess, is 3 mana 3/1 isn't super exciting stats-wise, and the real downside is that you can kind of get lulled into a safe sense of security with this card, I think, which is where you do the big swing because you have Nivea. Before you move to the player blocker step, your opponent kills Nivea, and then they can just block and profitably kill your creatures. So that downside...
Good trick to look out for, yeah. Good trick to look out for.
100%. Don't be too comfortable. I think if it has a home, Najila and Yoshimaru are the decks that I kind of see it being potentially interested in.
Surely Felia would be good because she has a quite powerful attack trigger.
Or yeah, exactly, 100%. If you've got a commander like Felia, where you just want to
sometimes
guarantee
attacking your 2/2
trigger.
in is a bit of a suicide attack, so this lets you get the blink ability and keep Felia around. Sounds okay.
And the next card we are talking about is Worzel, the Protector. 1 and 3. Yeah. 1 and 3 white for a legendary planeswalker. With 4 starting loyalty. For 0, you can create a 1/1 white cat which token with tap as a loyalty counter each planeswalker you control. For -1, you can look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a planeswalker or basic planes from among them, put it into your hand. And for -8, you can create 10 Scribe Spirits, and they're a green mana 1/1 fairy creatures with flying. Side note, I really wish they just said create 10 1/1 flying fairy creatures. It's just a little bit of complexity that I don't think is necessary.
I think it's the callback thing again. I didn't know what a scribe creature token thing was, but I found out that it is a really old Magic card. So it's kind of the same reason that the last card didn't make an angel. It made a chroma, specifically made a chroma, as opposed to just a generic angel.
I think a chroma has enough keywords and stuff that it's fair. This is just a 1/1 fairy of flying. This is my distinction. It's a bit egregious. But anyway, talking about the card at hand, Planeswalkers as commanders in the 1v1 format is quite powerful. Again, it's a different tangent your opponent has to attack on. There's less Planeswalker removal than there is creature removal. We've seen with cards like Quintorius and Elminster that Planeswalkers can have a home as commanders in the format. How do I kind of see this working? The main card that made me look twice at this, the main part of the card that made me look twice is the first ability. The 0 mana create a 1/1 cat with tap at loyalty counter each Planeswalker you control. That feels like the kind of thing that, if protected, can just snowball really, really quickly, where every turn you're suddenly getting incrementally large amounts of loyalty counts in all of your creatures. The next slide that we have, Adam, you can have a look. I just looked for planeswalkers that this would be, because you really want to have
You want lots of planeswalkers for the minus. Yeah, absolutely.
100%. If you're not for the minus and also for the 0, because those cats tapping to put loyalty counters on planeswalkers, the more you can have in play, the more value you're going to get out of them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
so
very good.
I feel like there's a decent number of planeswalkers in white that are either playable in the format or kind of on the fringe of being playable in the format that could be pushed up by having this commander.
Definitely.
A lot of those planeswalkers have negatives that are removal spells. And if you've got a couple cats in play, then you can effectively keep doing them without having to start upticking naturally.
Yep.
And it also means some of the planeswalkers from War of the Spark who just don't have any up abilities now have a way to gain mana again, or to gain loyalty again.
That's a good shout, yeah.
You hearing what I'm saying, or not really?
I'm picking up what you're putting down. It does look powerful. I just think 4 mana's a bit much. White, you could play a white controlling sort of big white deck. I don't think this is a white weenie type situation. This is a Super Friends. Yes.
The other thing that white planeswalkers have a lot of effects, but some of them is removal and making tokens. So that if you can go quite wild on the board, you can have a lot of blockers. You can defend your planeswalkers quite well in that regard.
Yeah, I think you've said everything relevant about it. That it's hard to interact with commander. It generates value. It's at a reasonable price point. We've seen Quintorius at 4 is a playable price point with a few mana rocks and maybe other bits and pieces in your deck to help get it out. Although this doesn't work with City of Traitors very well, which is in the competitive version of Quintorius is used to get it out early. I think this might be the most playable. It's certainly the best one we've seen so far, I think, and I think it might be the most playable one so far. This one's a weird one. Sash and Waistcoat, Unmen. 1 in the blue for a 2/2 legendary creature, insect rogue. Whenever a face-down creature attacks one of your opponents, it can't be blocked this combat. And then pay 3 mana to manifest the top card of your library. All good so far. And then any player may activate this ability, but only as a sorcery. Interesting. So it means only you can activate it as a sorcery as well, right?
Yeah, every player can only activate it as a sorcery.
Any player. But it does mean that your various morph creatures and megamorph creatures and what was the one from the detective set called?
I can't remember.
Damn it, I can't remember.
They have ward as well, yes.
They have ward as well,
Cloak.
And then you've got the manifest cloaked creatures. So there's a whole bunch of new face-down creatures that exist in Magic. And you could have unblockable 2/2 tribal if you wanted.
Yes.
And I guess there are some shenanigans with turning things face up, and there might be some powerful effects, and that effect, which you've probably already thought of.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing, which doesn't excite me very much. 3 mana, 2/2 unblockable tribal doesn't sound very exciting. So why is it on the list?
Yeah, I don't care about anything you just said, Adam. No offense.
Good.
This card,
no, that's fine.
This probably isn't good anyway, but this is one of my like really cool like combo kind of stuff. So what you need is Hearthstone or Training Grounds. Hearthstone is more tutorable, so it's more reliable. And then you need Ashnod's Altar. So the Hearthstone reduces the activated ability by 1. Ashnod's Altar sacrifices for 2 colorless. That means that you can manifest the top card, sack it for 2 colorless, and then just get through your entire deck. And then as you're doing this, you will manifest a Jace at some point, and you just don't sacrifice the Jace, and then you can turn Jace face up and you can win.
How do you turn Jace face up?
Because you can cast manifested cards, can't you?
No, it's only creatures.
Okay, this is not as good as I thought it was.
I
thought you could cast any
Reading
permanent.
the card explains the card.
Well, this probably doesn't work then. The next card we're talking about is the Unluckiest Planeswalker. 2 and a red for a legendary Planeswalker without a Planeswalker type. Not for the first time.
Interesting.
We saw the Wanderer before didn't have a Planeswalker type. I've seen some people mistakenly say this is the first Planeswalker without a Planeswalker type.
No,
anyway,
cool spot. Very good.
I can't believe this is the first time we've mentioned it, but new mechanic from this set, controversial mechanic from this set, and that mechanic is Rule Breaker.
Yeah.
A deck with this commander can have aura cards of any color identity and any basic land cards. Worth noting that Rule Breaker will not always have that kind of text. It's a bit like it's an indicator word, a bit like landfall is, where it just indicates a certain type of rules, not necessarily a specific rule. And so in this instance, it's a red commander. You only play red cards except for basic lands, auras of any color. +1, add 1 mana of any color. When you spend this mana to cast an aura, you create a 1/1 red gremlin creature token. -3, discard your hand, then draw cards equal to twice the number of auras you control. For each aura attached to you, attach it to the opponent of your choice. This can be your commander, and 4 loyalty when it enters, if I didn't say so already. I completely just moved past this card when I was looking through the spoilers, and then I saw on the Discord that XJ Cloud has actually made a list for it that looks really, really cool. Wow. So he's a streamer. Go check him out if you haven't heard of him already.
Yep.
It's kind of like a mono-red aura control deck. The coolest thing that it can do is there's a card called Reality Scramble, and if you're not familiar, it's like Polymorph, but it can target any non-land permanent type, and you get a card of that type. So you can Reality Scramble the Unluckiest Planeswalker into an Ugin, for example.
Sweet. Yeah.
And also it has Retrace. So you can discard a land to cast it again, so if it gets countered, you can kind of keep trying to do so. And it means you can gamble for it, because if you discard it, you can then retrace it.
Nice. No, that sounds cool. That sounds really cool.
Really cool. And that's not what your deck's built around, but it's just a cool thing the deck has access to.
We've often talked about decks having multiple game plans that might be good in different situations, so this sounds good. Otherwise, as you said, aura control, so lots of, I guess, not pacifisms as such, but maybe pacifism type effects. Lots of auras that interact with creatures. So it's a callback to all the curses and negative auras that you can put on people, and the joke was that it was always the same guy, and he must be one of the unluckiest people in the Magic multiverse. I don't know whether there's room for this kind of card, for that kind of card to be in here. Those
potentially.
Kind of auras.
The interesting thing is that a lot of those curses, I believe, if I remember correctly, cared about creatures attacking. The list that Extra Cloud was on had a lot, didn't play many creatures. And also it's just worth noting that like the +1 adding mana of any color, helping to fix your mana is really relevant because of the downside of this deck having only basic lands. I mean, it's kind of hard to fix your mana. Yeah. And then the -3, I think, is going to draw a surprisingly large number of cards. Drawing cards equal to twice the number of auras is quite a lot. So I'm hyped to do this.
Oh yeah, so you have to. Sorry, I'm just reading it, and you have to cast. You have to cast an aura spell to get the 1/1. But like you were saying with the last Planeswalker, an uptick that makes, or that was a 0 that makes a body helps protect the Planeswalker. Okay, this is the new best one then.
Yeah, I'm really, really hyped about this card, and I can't believe I just kind of glossed over it first. So Adam, I just spoke about the best one so far. Would you like to talk about the worst one so far?
This is the Ryanist one so far, in my opinion. This is one, it's like combos or nothing. So this is Ashaya's Enduring Bond, 1 red-green for a legendary sorcery. And just cut to the chase, this can be your commander, which is exciting. All it does, though, is discover X, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast a spell. And discover is like a fixed cascade. If you don't cast the cascaded card, it goes to your hand instead. So it's in some ways better, but I'm sure you'll tell me there's some corner cases where it's worse. But I looked at this card, I thought, this is only playable as a combo card, right? This is not just, it's just a meme otherwise. You're just going to be spinning into some random stuff and hope that's good enough. So, Ryan, as I often say, what is the combo?
But here's the thing, right? So the reason we've got this card here today isn't because I think it's going to be played in the format. It's more just because I think it's sometimes it's just fun to talk about cards that are interesting designs, or to talk about cards that look better than they are and talk about why they aren't very good. So when you were reading the card, you didn't read the most important kind of bit of text on the card for why the card is bad. No, that's okay. It's just what legendary sorcery. People might not be familiar because it's not something that comes up a lot. You may cast a legendary sorcery only if you control a legendary creature or planeswalker.
Well, that's so bad.
That's the real thing that's holding this card back.
That's so bad. I just thought it was a legendary sorcery for it to be in your command zone.
No,
I didn't realise it was like the ones from, was it Dominaria or something?
Yes.
Oh my God, they were so awkward.
Yeah, so the problem with this is that if there was to be a kind of combo with this card, then the cards you're looking to play are the 0 mana suspend cards that you're going to try and spin into. So the two relevant ones being Hypergenesis, that's starting with you. Each player puts a creature, artifact, or enchantment or land out of the battlefield. You kind of keep going until everyone wants to stop, and then you just fill your deck with massive creatures. Or Glimpse of Tomorrow, which shuffles all your permanents into your library, and then you reveal that many cards and put them into play. So both of these cards effectively trying to cheat a bunch of big creatures to win the game. But the problem is that this spell costs 3 mana, so you can't have any cards that cost 1 to 3. If this card had Cascade, you could include 3 drops, but because it's Discover X, it's 1 to 3. You can't have them in. Otherwise, you might spin into those instead of your suspend card. And you need to have a legendary creature or planeswalker that costs 4 or more. No. Ideally, you'd have cards with cost reduction. So yeah, again, we're mainly talking about this because it's not good, but I think I looked at this card for like 10 minutes trying to like find cards on Scryfall to make it work. And unfortunately, I don't think it does. And also the other thing I'll say, the other downside is that you can't really respin with this very easily. Because if you cast this for 3 mana and it gets countered and it goes to the command zone again, when you cast it again, you cast it for 5 mana and it discovers equals the mana you spend. So now you need to have built a deck that doesn't have any 4 drops in it either.
Nice.
So yeah, it's fun card to talk about.
The card looks bad and is actually worse than it looks. Good to know.
The card is terrible, but it's a cool design. It's interesting. It's interesting to talk about. Adam, the next card we're talking about, Davvol, Evincar of Rath, 2 black and a green for a legendary creature, Phyrexian Noble 2/2. Whenever another creature you control enters, you lose 1 life and you add a black. I'll let you talk about this one. I've been talking a lot.
I have to talk about these cards? Terrible. I just thought this looked kind of cool with Cat Oven. So that was Cauldron Familiar and Witch's Oven. Which was a big deck in Pioneer when it was a format that still people cared about. That was Rakdos back then, because that worked really well with Mayhem Devil, turning all your sacrifices into pings. I believe now the most up-to-date version is green-black, and it uses, I think it's Yigra, some kind of cat animal creature that turns all creatures into food, and there is like an infinite combo. I played a little tiny bit of Pioneer on Arena and it killed me and I didn't really get it, but I was like, okay, that's cool. The deck has morphed into something that can now just combo kill rather than slowly ping your opponent to death. And this is in that colours. So there is, I doubt it's going to be consistent enough, although green and black are both colours that have tutors. So there might be something there. But there is some kind of cat oven combo-y thing. And also just the cat oven interaction of the cat coming into play and draining your opponents offsets the life loss. And so the fact that whenever you cycle your cat in and out of your graveyard, you also make a mana that can let you do other things with it. It just, I think it could be some kind of Golgari combo-y thing going on. That was it. The next card is Elda, Conjurer of Spectacle. 2 green-white for a legendary creature human wizard. 2/2. The first non-legendary creature spell you cast each turn has Demonstrate. And for people like me that don't know what that means, it says when you cast that spell, you may copy it. If you do, choose an opponent to also copy it, and each copy becomes a token. And oh yeah, I mean, this is you came up with the idea for this, so I won't steal your thunder. Take it away.
So the main thing this does, and it's a lot of mana. But green-white does have a lot of ways to tutor for artifacts and also for creatures, so it's relatively consistent to a degree. This card combos with Leveler. So Leveler being a 4 mana or 5 mana, I can't remember, one of the two.
Yes.
20/20, and when it enters, you exile your library. So you play your commander, you play Leveler, you copy it, but your opponent also copies it, and their turn happens before your next draw step.
Indeed.
So they will lose in their draw step. Apart from that, because that is that's the reason I put it in the video.
You can also have redundancy with pacts, can you not?
It's creature spells.
Creature spell, damn it.
Yes, yeah. I don't know if there's any creature spells that are kind of pacty.
No, I was only thinking of pacts. Okay.
I think the reason you would build this deck is because of Leveler as your kind of exciting payoff.
Yeah, definitely.
And then it just kind of seeing what other kind of value you can get out of it. The next card we're talking about is Feroz, Ulgrotha's Warden, which is 3 green, white, blue for a legendary Planeswalker Feroz, who enters with 5 loyalty. +2, create 2 1/1 blue bird creature tokens with flying. 0, draw a card. You may put a permanent card with mana value 4 or less from your hand onto the battlefield. And -7, create a Feroz's Ban token. It's a 6 mana artifact with creature spells cost 2 more to cast, and it can be your commander. This card kind of looked a little bit to me like Elminster, but you get to have green instead of white blue.
Yep.
I found a list by Baral Enfin Libre that played Kahira as a companion, which I thought was really cool. There's a lot of people on the French Magic the Quet server who were going to have brewing list and talking about it, and I was trying to understand, but I was using Google Translate, so I might have missed a couple of things. Generally, the essence I got was that they were kind of going for like a control-y deck that also has some access to ramp. It just seemed kind of sweet. There was a bit of back and forth. Not everyone was playing Kahira as a companion. Some people were, other people were not. I don't know. Super familiar with Elminster lists. I can see why people are drawing that comparison, and I alternatively thought it would be quite cool to build a combo deck where you use Felidar Guardian and clones to flicker Feroz and keep putting more cards into play. But I'll accept that my version is significantly worse than the actually good control version. Adam, what are you like control more than I do? What are your thoughts?
I do. Yeah. I mean, this looks good as a top end, I guess. I mean, 6 mana is a lot, but yeah, Bant is the right place to play. I think a 6 mana Planeswalker commander ticking up to 7 loyalty and making 2 1/1 flyers is a good way to defend it when it does come in. Also, the 0 could just be really powerful, just to put it into play and then put a 4-drop into play as well. You've got multiple things for your opponent to worry about. A Bant control is going to be basically blue-white control, but with a sprinkling of playable green cards, realistically. I mean, the Kahira line is interesting because I believe when Kahira was being played in like modern, it was being played because like basically creatureless control decks would play it because you can put it in your hand to like pitch to Solitude and stuff. So here you're allowed to do that because the color identity prevents it going into just a traditional blue-white shell. So there is, I think, if you can get yourself a free card in the command zone with a companion, that's worth doing. And what it will effectively blue-white control is going to be close to creatureless anyway. So yeah, sounds awesome. Massimo, the Magician, blue, white, red, not necessarily in that order, for a legendary creature cat wizard, which is a 3/2, and when it or another creature you control enters, exile up to 1 target instant or sorcery with mana value 1 from your graveyard. If a card is exiled this way, that creature gains whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player. Copy the exiled card. You may cast the copy. I got confused, so I see. So when this or another creature comes into play, you exile a card, and then the creature that triggered the ability, whether it's this or the other creature entering, gains the ability of when you hit, you cast the card for free. So you don't just cast the card straight out of your graveyard. You have to jump through a bit of a hoop. It's in the right colors. Again, like these are really good colors for 1 mana spells. There's loads of good 1 mana spells in Jeskai. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything. I mean, I know it does something, but like it itself doesn't do anything because you'd have to somehow also give it haste for it to be relevant on its own ETB effect. Otherwise, that effect doesn't do anything. So you kind of want to play a fairly creature-heavy Jeskai deck that's also playing a bunch of 1 mana spells. And I'm not sure why you'd want to do that when Aragorn is still around, but
yeah, I get that. It's a very different deck to Aragorn.
I suppose I'm thinking of it as a commander. You might want
I'm also thinking
yeah, you also think of it as a commander. It does look like a bit too build-aroundy to put in your 99.
Yes.
I suppose you're going to be playing 1 mana spells anyway, so maybe this is just good enough to go with something like an Aragorn. I believe there are definitely Aragorn lists that run quite a few creatures, the ground creatures, so this could go into that. Yeah, I'm less excited. I think there's too many hoops to jump through to get something valuable out of it.
That's fair. I guess my thoughts is like mana value 1, there's a lot of very good cards for 1 mana. You've got like your removal spells like there's Lightning Bolts, you've got a lot of different cantrips you can be playing.
Yeah.
The way I kind of envisioned it in my head is this is your commander, you're playing just a lot of good 1 mana instants, and then you play a bunch of cheap evasive creatures. So there's a lot of 1 mana blue creatures that can't be blocked, for example. Sure. Now, the kind of downside is if whenever you play a creature, you exile a sorcery card, that kind of becomes linked to that creature. If that creature dies, you've lost access to that instant or sorcery, which is why you kind of need redundancy, if that makes sense. You can't. Yeah.
So if they kill it before combat damage, because it's you may exile, so you're not forced to exile it if you don't think you can get in for a hit, but. Sure, if you do exile it, then it's killed in combat, then you lose the ability to cast it ever again.
Yes, and you have to lock the spell in when the creature enters. The upside something compared to this over something like a Snapcaster is the Snapcaster is you cast a Snapcaster, you cast the spell's gone. Whereas this, if you get enough creatures in play and you get to keep hitting with them, you get to keep casting the instants and sorceries over and over again.
Yeah,
so
I get
you
it.
can get like.
I don't think it's particularly good, so I'm struggling to argue or disagree with you.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
I get it.
I'm just trying to paint a bit more of the vision that I have.
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe it's too casual commander. It's just Snapcaster. Yeah, Graveyard Recursion is strong.
I prefer Snapcaster to this a lot, and probably even Flashback I prefer to this, just because of the immediate you will get to cast the spell that you want to flashback. Whereas this is like you might get to cast the spell that you've chosen to flashback. And as you've said, you have to exile it. So if it doesn't work out, you don't get another go at it. So meh. That's my official rating is meh.
We're going to move on to the final card we're talking about today, which is Whitz, the Bibliophile.
Probably.
1 white-blue for the best card that everyone's the most excited about. Legendary creature, Homunculus. 1 free. Another rule breaker. This time, a deck with this commander has no maximum deck size. 3 mana tap. You draw a card and gain 1 life. This ability costs 3 less to activate if you had 200 or more cards in your starting deck. So I kind of look at there being kind of like 3 tiers to this card. Obviously, you could play this as your commander of an 100-card deck. That's not a consideration. If you're playing this commander, it's because you want to abuse the fact you can have more cards in your deck. So you could go for the basic, the Netflix free trial Whitz deck, which is a 120-card deck where you're playing that so you can have Yorion in the Companion Zone. I don't think that's good because you could just be playing Yorion as a commander at that point. So the next upgraded tier is playing 200 cards, and you do this so that his ability becomes 0 mana to activate.
I think that,
Which seems justifiable. The ability is not bad. It's kind of like a Phyrexian arena that gains you life on a creature. Then the final tier, one that everyone's most excited about, the premium tier, is playing a 235 to a 250 card deck so that you can play Battle of Wincing in Commander or Duel Commander.
Of course. I think this is the whole reason this card exists, but sorry.
I think it's mainly for Battle of Wits, but I just also wanted to point out you don't necessarily have to go straight there. Because the more cards you have in your deck, the less consistent your deck is.
Well, we are playing Singleton. Go on, I wanted
to ask you, before I say anything else, because I've spoken to a lot of people about this card and given my opinion. So I wanted to ask you for your opinions first before I give mine.
Okay. So my opinion is meme. This is meme tier. But maybe I'm proved wrong. I mean, Yorion was bannable in Modern. And that was exactly the same argument that you're going to make, that it made the deck less consistent. But there's so much redundancy. And look, how many Duel Commander decks have you built now that we've been playing this format for over a year? There's never enough room to fit all the cards you want to fit in a Duel Commander deck. Never. You always have to, there's always cuts. You have to make tons and tons of cuts. A first draft of any deck is often like 150 cards for me. And then I have to make deep cuts. I don't think it's very difficult to put together a 200 card deck in 2 colors. Yes, you will have some questionable cards that aren't like A tier, but I think there are enough playable cards at different mana values that I think you can reasonably put together a deck that isn't completely embarrassing. But why would you? Why would you? I mean, I guess Yorion is one reason, and the other one is Battle of Wits. I don't think I want to play this with less than 200 cards. Like your, free trial version. It doesn't seem worth it. I don't want to pay 3 mana for that ability ever. I don't really want this in my command zone, but if it's going to be in the command zone, it really needs to just be tap, draw a card, gain a life.
So
you get the kind of 200 cards as the minimum. If you're at 200 cards, how hard is it to put 50 more cards in? Bearing in mind that, like, of those 50 cards, about 20 of them are just going to be lands anyway. So it's not like you have to find that many more spells. And then you play Battle of Wits and some ways to tutor it. It just sounds like shuffling. It sounds a nightmare as well. And you are required, if you're going to play in a tournament, you have to be able to shuffle your deck unassisted.
100%. Yeah. I guess my kind of hot take is that I think this card is better without Battle of Wits. And my reason for that is that I don't think Battle of Wits is a good win condition. It's a 5 mana enchantment. You need to wait till your next upkeep. And also, I genuinely think that if you're playing Battle of Wits, you have to play 235 minimum, maybe more like 250 cards. And I think that added 50 cards just decreases the consistency. There aren't as many tutors in the format as you would think. It feels relatively consistent in a 100 card deck, but you're more than doubling the size. I had a look, there's like less than 5 cards in these colours that can tutor for it. I don't think that Battle of Wits is a good enough win con to justify it. So therefore, I think realistically, if you're playing this, it's because of what you've said, which is there's enough redundancy in the format that you can play a 200 card deck, and you're excited about the tap ability, and you're excited about Yorion. It's a ton of fun.
I think so.
I think I'm very happy this card exists because they've solved a problem a lot of people have had for a while, which is I want to play Battle of Wits in Commander.
Exactly. This is exactly why it's been made. Whether it becomes it'd be funny if it became playable, considering it is a meme. Straight up, this is a Wizards
the next Fantastic
meme.
Art. This is literally this Fantastic Art all over again, Adam. It's happening again. God. It's happening again.
How are they doing this so often?
So, I mean, again, that's all the cards. We started this at the top by saying we were thinking about skipping this, but some people asked us to talk about the cards.
I mean, there sounds like, a couple of the Planeswalker ones, I think it was all the Planeswalker ones sounded the most interesting. Yeah, the 6-mana Bant one, the mono white one and the mono red one, mono red, 5-color mono red, they look like the best cards to me. I don't think any of the creatures really excited me. We didn't mention it, and I probably should have mentioned it at the time, but I like the rule breaker mechanic because we've talked about almost every set review about the 5-color slop commander, the Cosmic Spider-Man, that is inevitably put in every set so that you can play all of the cards that you want to play. Now, I think this is a more elegant way of doing the 5-color slop. It's like, you can play the Aura deck or the Phyrexian deck, or I can't remember what other ones there are, but those are the two I remember. And it lets you play all of the cards, but without making it a 5-color slop commander, so that you can't literally play any card. You can play slop in one very specific niche, which I think is a lot more interesting. I
agree. I think that it opens up a lot of doors for future design spaces and interesting ways to tweak the format.
Yeah, I could see this being just a commander pre-con ability going forward. Yeah.
There's another card we didn't talk about on the set review today because I don't think it's good enough for Commander, but just to shout out very quickly, there's a black card who I can't remember the name of, and it has Eminence. And the Eminence ability is if this card is in your command zone or on the battlefield, you take a damage every turn. And I just thought Eminence as a downside is a really good design space. Eminence obviously being broken. But you could then print a overly powered card with the downside being that as long as it's in the command zone, you're going to have a negative effect happening to you.
Don't tease me like this, because in the olden days, Magic cards used to be upsides and downsides, and you had to balance them to make interesting deck building choices. Now everything is just upsides and other upsides, and you just decide which upsides you want to pair with which other upsides. So when you talk to me about having actual deck building considerations and actual cards having downsides you have to build around, Don't tease me like that.
Adam, coming to the end I think there's nothing super exciting. Some of the cards are cool. I think what I will say is, as you said, a lot of really cool designed cards. I don't think the impact on Duel Commander is going to be massive, which means that we're obviously going to have a really big BNR next announcement.
I think so, yeah.
Well, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give us a like, subscribe, comment down below. Special thanks to our Patreons whose names are on the screen now. See you all again next time.